Hey everybody, it's Maria Boynton. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Atlanta Up Close. We're talking about the campaign, the election. We basically can say it is in full swing right now. As we are talking today, we're in the final week of early voting. Ends on Friday, May 15th. The primary is May 19th. It is an honor and a pleasure to have none other than Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms here with us. How are you?
I am great. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Of course, candidate for governor of Georgia.
Isn't that something?
Oh, yes, it is something indeed. And we're going to talk about all that comes with it, that you perceive comes with it. And of course, everyone, we know that she is the former mayor of the city of Atlanta, Georgia. You have been crisscrossing this state, have you not?
I have. And Maria, and I said, isn't that something? Because for me, it really is deeply personal. My family goes back at least 5 generations in this state to a plantation in Crawfordville, Georgia, is where we're able to trace our roots. So I don't take this moment for granted. I think it's representative of so many things for so many of us. But yes, I have been crisscrossing the state. We were on the road yesterday. We left at 7 a.m. I pulled back into my garage sometime after 10 o'clock. We were in Gay, Georgia, Macon, Georgia, Columbus, Georgia, 7, 8 events. It was a great day.
Did you go to Box Springs and all that in Talbot County and all that?
Well,
You're going to get there, right?
I will get there. And I love traveling around this state. Now, I love Metro Atlanta. It's home. I'm born and raised in Atlanta. But getting outside of Atlanta is it's very special. One, because when I go into different communities, what's expressed to me is they aren't often used to people coming to see them and getting their input. So to have the opportunity to be on the ground and talk directly with people, put faces with the things that I'm fighting for, is quite fulfilling.
I mean, you're a celebrity. You're celebrity status. I mean, the daughter of a celebrity. You were in the White House, mayor of the big city of Atlanta, Georgia, the capital. The capital city. What are people saying to you? You feel that they're ready to accept Keisha as being like them?
Well, thank you for the rumor. I've never felt like a celebrity in that regard because I'm still Keisha Lance from Atlanta. Is what when I hear people say Keisha Lance, I know it's somebody I went to high school
You didn't hear my
with.
yeet, did you?
Sometimes or hooty hoo. But it's very grounding. It reminds me of who I am and where I came from. So moving around the state, it is people are just excited to have an opportunity to be heard. And getting outside of Atlanta, again, it's this reminder we all want the same things. How we deliver these things and the level of expectations may be different, but everybody wants great schools, safe communities. They want to be able to get great jobs and be able to age in place and all these things that anybody else wants in the state. They just aren't used to often talking to people who they only see on TV about it.
And what are they telling you they want in a governor? You're crisscrossing the state. You're meeting people from different areas of the state of Georgia. What are they saying to you, Mayor Bottoms, about the type of person they need to be their governor?
There are several issues that keep coming up. One is this whole issue around just the cost of living. So now we're talking about high gas prices. We're talking about grocery prices. We're talking about housing. That's been something that's come up quite a bit. The amount of money that people are having to spend on rent and their mortgages. In one of our events yesterday, I believe we were in Columbus, Georgia, a young man who works for the Postal Service said that he didn't have any expectations of ever being able to afford a home. So those are very real conversations, people asking, what can I do to help with housing costs? And I've shared things that we've done in Atlanta, not because Atlanta is the center of the universe, but it's been tested, it's been proven to work, and I know we can scale it statewide, like creating an affordable housing trust fund. We did it in Atlanta with proceeds from closing Centennial Yards, largest real estate transaction history of the United States, right outside Mercedes-Benz Stadium, that whole transaction. We created an affordable housing trust fund. We created a child savings account for kindergartners in public schools. We put money aside for workforce development training over at Atlanta Area Tech. So these are things that are coming up. Also, Medicaid expansion. And some people may ask, if I don't have Medicaid, what difference does it make? Well, think about the hospitals that may have closed in your community. Think about the closure of Atlanta Medical, right, in downtown Atlanta. All of this is related to our refusal to expand Medicaid. Now we're having this conversation around voting rights and the access to the ballot. This has been a conversation that's been bubbling up, but it is now top of mind for a lot of people with the Supreme Court decision, and jobs, access to mental health. Mental health care. So the list goes on, but these are the issues that come up repeatedly.
When it comes to voting rights, and that's a big deal here in the state right now. Of course, it's a Republican-led state. When we talk about voting rights, what do you feel as governor that you can do to assure those who want to participate in the process without too much drama? What would you do as governor to ensure that their right would be protected? They can go to the polls and cast their ballots without ever so often there being something thrown in their way in order for them to cast a ballot.
We are actually releasing a plan, probably within the hour when I leave here. It's called the Johnson-Lewis Voting Rights Plan.
Okay.
And what we have done is looked at where we are as a state and what we can deliver as a state. So it will be outlined, but it includes state protections for voting rights, creating an independent body that can help people access the right to vote, making sure that we are securing our election sites and protecting the people who work at the polls, many of whom are elderly people, retired people working at the polls. So it's a very detailed plan, but I'm very excited about it. And this is this reminder why it's important to vote in this election. Some people have said, I voted, it didn't make a difference. What difference does it make? Well, this battle over rights to access the vote really is going to be fought in the state house.
Mm-hmm. You seem to care a lot about the state in which you live. You said you're a fifth generation.
At least.
Means a lot, to, at
Yeah.
least, of course. And how, by the way, how did you find all that out?
Well, I'm very fortunate in that my grandmother and many other family members saw fit in the 1970s, right after Roots. They went down to the courthouse. My grandmother knew where she had come from because she remembered, she would tell me a story coming on a horse and buggy from Crawfordville, Georgia. They went to the courthouse and they pulled all these documents and just oral history that many of us don't have the benefit of, but thankfully my family did. And I did a little more research, so I knew that the once enslaved ancestors of mine in the state were named Shepherd and Betsy Peak. Plantation in Crawfordville, Georgia. I had their slave owner's name. I found his will. I have a picture of them, which is pretty incredible. And then on my grandfather's side, again, this beautiful oral history. He was born in Monroe, Georgia, raised in Winder, Georgia, and then moved to the west side of Atlanta with his grandmother and great-grandmother when he was around 12 or 13. So he would tell me his story of his mother had a gambling house, which sits right where the World Congress sits right now. It was a black community called Lightning.
Enterprising indeed.
Yep, very enterprising. So there's a hustle in the family. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. Some who worked in their own way and some who work within the system. So I'm in the line of people who work within the system.
So everyone, we're talking to Keisha Lance Bottoms, former mayor of Atlanta, Georgia, who is now vying for the seat of governor of the state of Georgia. We talk about education. That is something that is high on your list of things that you want to tackle when you become governor. You talked about that. So with this state not being controlled at the moment by Democrats, How would you work with a Republican-led Georgia General Assembly to, let's say, address the outdated quality basic education QBE formula, for
So
instance?
this QBE formula is how we determine how we fund education in this state. This law was written while I was still in the marching band at Frederick Douglass High School.
Wow.
That's how far back it goes. The state has an obligation to fully fund education in this state, not local municipalities and counties. It is the responsibility of the state. The state has only fully funded education since that law was written 3 times. We need to fully fund education in this state. We do great for business in this state, but we are at the bottom half when it comes to literacy in this state. I was very happy to see that Governor Kemp signed into law that literacy coaches will be assigned in each school. That has been very helpful in Mississippi. It's called the Mississippi Miracle and how they've changed their education outcomes. But we also need to fully fund pre-K in the state so that every child who wants to attend for pre-K has a spot to attend. We need to create free technical and community colleges in this state so that everybody who wants to be trained for one of these great 6-figure paying jobs, whether it be with Delta Airlines or with Home Depot or any of the other companies in this state, have an opportunity to be trained, or if you want to open up a hair salon like my mother did, so that you can go to school for free and have these opportunities. So the answer to your question, how I'll do it with Republicans, we work together a lot. They don't always like to advertise it. They don't always want people to know that they're having conversations with Democrats, but I do believe that there are some things that can get bipartisan interest in this state. Improving education outcomes would be one, and secondly, improving access to health care.
How is your working relationship with Republicans? We saw some strain there during the pandemic with the governor. How would you say your working relationship is with the Republicans in Georgia?
You know what? I'm going to work with anybody who's willing to do right by the people I represent. And to the extent that you're not doing right and you're harming the communities I represent, then I'm going to go to battle. So, there were a lot of things that Kemp and I worked together on. We worked together on making sure that the Super Bowl went off without a hitch. We worked together on things related to economic development, attracting companies into this state. Senator David Ralston, who's since passed, was a big champion of mine over at the Capitol. And what I always appreciated about him, I knew exactly where he stood, even when we didn't agree on issues. It's not salacious to talk about the things we get along with. It's much more appealing for people to hear the things that we fight about. But, again, you got to be able to work with people who don't think like you and look like you. And that was my experience as mayor. I did that. But when Republicans were leading us off a cliff, then I went toe-to-toe with them, unafraid.
Everyone, she's Keisha Lance Bottoms, candidate for governor of Georgia. Thank you for coming in, and I'm not done yet. Just thanking you, because I'm truly happy that you came in. So when we talk about working with the Republicans, and we talk about what the governor has signed, and you were talking about you were happy when it came to students and things of that nature, something we saw him sign just yesterday, as a matter of fact. House Bill 369, HB 369, when it comes to nonpartisanship.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's, of course, the lawmakers are targeting 5 metro Atlanta counties. We can say, Democrat heavy, sway elections, things of that nature. I mean, how would you have done that differently? Is it even necessary?
Don't discriminate against metro counties. And I think that it's worth noting that these counties are all led by African American women. The district attorneys in these counties are black women. And it's the 5 metro counties. What about the rest of the state? So
159 counties.
If it's necessary, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Don't target the metro area, and that's exactly what's been done. And I can tell you, having gone through a very contentious run for mayor of Atlanta, I ran against a candidate who most often voted in the Republican primary, so I knew she was a Republican, but many people didn't know that. And I would imagine it may have even changed the outcome of some people's votes had they known she was a Republican. So I share that I was victorious, but it took a lot of work to educate people in that way. Tell the truth and shame the devil. If you're a Democrat, put a D next to your name. If you're a Republican, put an R next to your name, and give people credit enough to be able to make their own decisions accordingly.
Mayor Bottoms, you left the mayor's office, moved into national politics, served in the Biden administration, became a commentator, and now you're seeking higher office. So how do you respond to voters? And I tell you, I'm on social media every once in a while, and I see people saying some stuff that is interesting that they actually take their fingers and start typing it. So how do you respond to voters who see what you're doing as some might call it political job hopping rather than a public service commitment? What do you say to that?
Yeah, again, I have been an Atlanta resident my entire life, just about, aside from when my family lived in Europe when I was a child and when I went off to college. There's no hopping here. I completed my term as mayor. I was elected to a 4-year term. Had I been elected to a 6, 8, or 12-year term, I would have completed that term. In fact, when I served as mayor of Atlanta, I was asked 3 times to join the president's cabinet in a cabinet position, and I was committed to completing that term. So people will have their opinions. I was very proud when I completed my term as mayor with 68% approval rating. So I knew that the people of Atlanta had approved of the job that I had done. And I've said before, there was no one reason. If it were about going to another job, I would have left early when I had the opportunity to do that. But I ran through the tape. I made the best decision for my family and for myself at that time. My children were much younger. Now I have 2 who've graduated from high school, 2 who are still in high school. And it's a different season. And I can tell you, I did not plan on running for governor of this state. But for me, it was praying about what I'd be called to do in this season, especially after the last presidential election. I know what kind of leadership we need in this moment because I served as mayor under the first Trump administration. So it's really frustrating to me to hear people say, oh, she couldn't handle it.
She's a quitter. Does it sting when you hear that kind of stuff?
It pisses me off. It doesn't sting because it's not true. Because I didn't quit, because I finished my term. So no, it doesn't sting. It just makes me angry. You can criticize me, just tell the truth when you criticize me. But I can also tell you I left Atlanta in great shape. And when I left Atlanta, the Biden administration was in place. So this narrative around she left us when we needed her. Remember, Donald Trump was gone. We had vaccines at that point. We had millions of dollars pouring into this city. Millions of dollars that I went and advocated for at the White House. So I delivered for this city, very proud. 4 years of balanced budgets. 4 years without laying off employees. 4 years without raising property taxes. 7,000 units of affordable housing, a savings account for kindergartners, money towards workforce development training, and I can give you a list of 20 other things. So criticize me if you want, just tell the truth when you do it.
Okay, before I let you go, I do have something I wanted to ask you about. Being a reporter here, I was in the midst of it all with the George Floyd protests and Rashad protests. And when Sequoia Turner was killed near the Wendy's protest site, many Atlantans said that they felt that the city didn't act quick enough, that you failed to act quickly, not quickly enough to restore public safety. And now that you're asking to lead the entire state, Mayor Bottoms, what responsibility do you accept for the decisions or delays that may have contributed to that tragedy?
Any leader who has a conscience won't think about what you did or could have done differently when a child dies. And as a mother of four, that was particularly hurtful for me because I stood with her family and I shed tears with her family. And I'm very thoughtful about not politicizing that moment because I don't think that's fair to her and to her family. But I can tell you I made every decision I thought to be the best decision. And, hindsight gives you this benefit that the moment doesn't give you. You go back to 2020, and people often forget what 2020 was like. We had police in the area. I had just gotten a call from the police chief not even 45 minutes before. They had been going back and forth with they take the barricades down, they put the barricades back up, some of the protesters. I had just gotten a call saying the barricades are back up. We're sending people over to take them back down, and she was killed. So, I've replayed that night, those phone calls, every decision that I made. And that was probably one of the most devastating moments, but it doesn't compare to the devastation that her family faced in losing her. But I can tell you every decision that I made was based on what I thought to be the right decision. Even this narrative around we told police to stand down, that is absolutely untrue.
Okay.
That we, I'm not going to repeat all of the false things that are being said.
I understand it. I understand it. Mayor Bottoms is here, everyone. Final question for you today, and then we're going to let you tell the people. You're going to look into your camera. You're going to tell them why you should be their next governor. But final question now: top-heavy, bureaucratic. Those are some of the characterizations that I remember folks said about your administration as mayor. It's often criticized as being top-heavy, bureaucratic. If elected governor...
I've never heard that before.
Never? Okay. Well,
No.
If elected governor, how would you prove that your leadership would be different at the state level?
Yeah, well, I can tell you this about our administration. In fact, we cleaned up a lot of things inside of City Hall. We put in place an inspector general inside of City Hall. We also created something called Open Checkbook so that anybody could go online and see exactly how we were spending money, from how much we paid for a box of ink pens to how much we paid for travel expenses, to the multi-million-dollar contract that someone may have gotten at the airport. In fact, our administration received an award. I personally received an award from the First Amendment Foundation for transparency. That's the type of leadership I'll bring to the state. We were very efficient. And in fact, it's the reason we were able to balance the budget in the largest economic downturn that our city has faced. It's the reason we were able to leave $180 million in the bank, and we didn't lay off employees. In fact, we raised our minimum wage at that time for our employees to $15 an hour. Very proud of my leadership, very proud of the fiscal condition that we left the city in, very proud of the legacy projects that we left in place that the city has been benefiting from right now. So what I can say to people is that as governor of the state, I'm going to fight for you the same way I fought as mayor of Atlanta. And it's about getting in the arena. It's very easy to sit on the sidelines and speculate about what you would do if given the opportunity. I had the opportunity, and I fought courageously on behalf of the people of Atlanta, and that is exactly what I will do on behalf of the state of Georgia.
How optimistic are you about it happening for you?
You know what, Maria? I am as optimistic as I can be until the results come in. So I'm going to always run like I'm 30 points down. I'm not going to take anything or anybody for granted.
Not going to stop running till you're sure you won, huh?
It's the reason I will be back on the road before the sun comes up tomorrow morning, and moving around on through Election Day. Same way I've done the entire year, over a year that we've been campaigning.
Keisha Lance Bottoms, thank you so much for coming in and sitting down and on my platform to talk about your campaign for governor of Georgia, okay?
Always great to be here.
All right, and everyone, thank you so much for listening and watching another edition of Atlanta Up Close. And of course, you know you can always do the same on the Odyssey app. I'm Maria Boynton.